instead of looking at the Kirby abilities and trying to figure out which one's the best and the worst, let's look at which ones are just the weirdest. Which of these are just super bizarre or just kind of like the typical thing that you would see in most video games in general. Now, let's go ahead and start this off immediately with Beam. I mean, this one is a classic. We see this one in almost every single Kirby game, to be honest. And it's evolved a little bit as the years have gone on. Once you get to the more modern games, there's different ways to use the beam. And it's basically just like I guess you could call it like an electrical orb kind of attack that you could just swing around. And that is the general idea. I wouldn't say this is a boring attack per se, but I wouldn't say it's anything too crazy because I feel like we see beams all the time in games. Maybe not exactly like this in particular, but I do feel like we have seen attacks like this somewhat frequently in other games. I'm trying to figure out if we're going to put beam either in Not That Strange or Fairly Normal, and I'm kind of thinking we'll just throw it right in the middle. I think that's probably pretty fair for that. Now we're going to move on to Fire. So this is just Kirby breathing fire. And again, this has evolved as time has gone on. He has different attacks in the modern games where you can turn into a fireball, essentially. And we also have the burning power-up. And honestly, let's just put these together because they're kind of just the same thing. Now, when you think of action games, what attacks do you usually have at your disposal? Well, you can have bullets, you can have electricity, but I feel like one of the most common things that you can really have as an attack for most games is fire. This is very, very common. Now, I don't think that the way that it's utilized in these games in particular is all of that different. I guess, like, sure, Kirby breathes fire. Like, off the top of my head, Spyro breathes fire as well. So, like, I mean, that's just one character. Plenty of video game characters breathe fire. I think I'm probably just going to throw this, as well as burning, both in the Not That Strange category. Because, yeah, the actual ability of fire is, like, one of the most common general things that you can have for being a common thing. But, yeah, I think probably just leaving them right there is going to work fairly well. So this next one is a little bit weird. We've got Fighter Kirby next. And this is strange because Kirby doesn't necessarily change in anything different. All that really happens is Kirby just kind of gets like he just kind of figures out how to learn karate. He has a bunch of like different like kicking moves and punching moves and all that good stuff. And there's a few different variants. There's like suplex, back throw, and I think like one other one that we're going to get into later. But again, it's like, if you've played a fighting game, then, like, there's nothing really all that exciting about the power-up. It's fun to use, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love the fighter ability. It makes attacking the enemies so much more satisfying than just, like, sucking them up or whatever. Or just using even something like fire or ice or beam. I still feel like fighter is one of the more inherently fun abilities to use in the game. But in terms of how weird it is, it's not. We're throwing this in boring slop. It feels bad because, like, this is a great power-up, but again, who cares if it's good or bad? It could be the greatest power-up of all time, and it's literally not interesting at all. That's just how it is. And speaking of generic power-ups, we have Ninja next. Now, ninjas, once again, very, very common in a multitude of games. And again, I do really like the usage of Ninja and Kirby, just being able to throw all the spears. And he has, like, I think he uses a sword in a couple of the games as well. And he's got, like, an enhanced, like, slide move that's really fast. The ninja ability is just really cool, and also the outfit is just awesome looking. But, like, again, it's really not that crazy of an idea. It's like, we've seen, like, a billion different ninjas. I'm sorry, this also goes in boring slop. I don't know what to tell you. Now, is it more or less exciting than Fighter? Maybe it's slightly more exciting, because I feel like even though we see Ninja all the time, Fighter, there's literally an entire genre of video games that are literally just fighting. So I really can't put that one up very high whatsoever. And next up, we've got Bomb. Again, it's another really cool power-up. It's evolved over time. In the newer Kirby games, Kirby can usually like throw the bomb at different angles, different speeds, roll it across the ground. It's utilized in a lot of really fun ways, but again, like, we're just throwing bombs here. Like, you can do this in, like, a bajillion games. And, like, it's weird because I feel like in games where you can throw bombs, you can usually do a lot more than that. Like, just, again, off the top of my head, I'm thinking of, like, Call of Duty. You got grenades, that's a bomb, but you can also, like, shoot stuff, right? So, usually the bomb is just, like, a secondary item, but for Kirby, it's just, like, his general thing when you have the ability. I don't think I can put it... I hate to say it, I think this is also boring slop. You know, we're going to put it right in between Ninja and Fighter. How does that sound? And next up, we've got Sword. Again, another fantastic power-up. I love that Kirby has basically always had Link's hat for the hat once they started introducing those in Superstar. It's a very nice touch. It's a fun little callback to The Legend of Zelda. But yet again, there is a zillion different games where you're playing as a sword fighter, slashing away at enemies, and that's basically what you're doing here. Now, of course, you could argue that this ability can be a little bit more distinct in a couple Kirby games, because like with Kirby Squeak Squad, you can turn your regular sword into a fire or ice sword if you combine the abilities together. But I'm not including the combination abilities or like the Kirby 64 abilities or any of those. This is just like the base power-ups, and that's basically it. So, again, I can't believe I'm doing this. I think this also has to go in boring slop. There's just way too many games that just have sword characters. I'm sorry. It feels really bad, but I think I'm going to put him right there. Yeah, that's where he's going. Oh, man, this honestly does feel pretty bad. But up next, I'm actually going to throw out two of them at the same time, and that is the Ice ability as well as Freeze, as these are, you know, basically the same thing. Freeze, of course, you dress up as an ice climber. Again, another fun callback. And for this one, you can push the button, you freeze up, and any enemies that are nearby turn into ice cubes. That's great. The ice ability is basically the same thing, but much more useful. You can now, like, blow icy air to freeze things. You, like, slide across the ground. And as you'd expect, it is a little bit more handy. But, again, like, an ice ability, this is very, very common in a lot of different games, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's boring slot because, like, just like with fire and burning, I think the utilization really does make a little bit more of a difference just because, like, the way that Kirby uses the ice powers is slightly distinct, but it's also not anything all that crazy, so I think we're probably going to throw these. Let's actually put them a little bit higher than ice because I do feel like ice abilities aren't as common as fire, but, I mean, only by, like, a hair. It's really not by much of a margin. Like, all four of these, you see them all the time in video games, but at the very least, they all tend to have a unique way of actually using these specific abilities. But anyway, that's where we're putting Ice and Freeze. They're going to go in the Not That Strange category. Now, let's move on to Cutter. So, for this one, Kirby basically gets a really powerful boomerang, and in the later games, you can charge up the boomerang, you can kind of like change the direction that you're throwing it in, and okay, now that I'm really thinking about it, I was going to say maybe this is boring slop, but now that I'm like actually diving into my brain here, there's really not a lot of games where you get to use a boomerang specifically, and not only that, but the boomerang here is used for puzzles. I guess kind of like, I guess you could argue the boomerang in Zelda, sure. But beyond like Zelda and this game, how many other games can you think of that use boomerangs in this style? Like, I can't really think of too many. I guess the boomerang flower in Mario 3D Land. But yeah, beyond that, I don't know. I can't really think of much. I don't think it's anything that crazy because a boomerang is just like an everyday item. Not everyone owns boomerangs, but it's just one of those things, one of those toys that has existed for what feels like forever. So I would probably put this in the fairly normal category. I don't know if I could really put it up any higher just because, like, again, he is just throwing a boomerang, but at the same time, it is not one that you see as frequently. And it is kind of strange that, like, that is literally the only thing that you can use when you're using the ability, but yeah, I think that's probably fair. Now we're going to move on to hammer. I think this is going to be another one that is either boring slop or just not that strange because, like, again, it's just a big hammer. And, of course, in the later games, the hammer is slightly more useful. Like, you can use it for puzzles. Like, a lot of times will be a Kirby game with, like, a big wooden stump, and you have to use the hammer to smash it down and break some sort of barrier to get through. So that happens. You can also charge the hammer in later games, and you can, like, run forward and, like, basically, like, swing around. Or you can swing the hammer around you, which is kind of cool. But I don't know if I would say it's anything all that crazy, because, like, again, hammers are a very, like, I feel, okay, compared to, like, the boomerang and hammer, all of us have hammers. Like, let's just be real. Even if you don't own much, you probably own a hammer, because at some point in your life, you have needed a hammer to get a nail into your wall to hang up a photo or something like that. Hang up a TV, who knows? Everyone has used a hammer at least once. I can't say it's all that crazy. I'm going to put it in the not that strange. I think that's probably fine. Like, once again, the way that Kirby uses the hammer is kind of interesting, I suppose. But, yeah, at the end of the day, it's just a hammer. Who cares? Let's move on to the next one. So, now we've got high jump. And this one's very interesting because all Kirby's doing here is jumping high. And that's really it. But the way that it's used in gameplay is kind of cool because he can, like, blast through blocks. Like, really, I guess, like, really weak blocks. So it's kind of like a jump and an attack at the same time, which I don't know if I would say is necessarily all that weird, but it is pretty different because, like, there's a ton of games where you can, like, upgrade your jump and make it a lot better, but not exactly to this degree. Like, this is completely changing how Kirby controls when you're using high jump. Because, yeah, like, you can control the way that you're jumping. You shoot way, way into the air, and you're kind of, like, invincible to an extent, of course. I don't think you can break through everything, like spikes or whatever. But, yeah, I think this is probably maybe it's in the normal category, or it's a power-up. I feel like that's probably too high for this, because, again, Kirby is just jumping. And don't worry, guys, there are actual weird Kirby abilities. They are coming. Well, I just have a bunch of the boring ones kind of, like, all, like, packed together. But I think we'll probably throw this, I don't know, throw it in fairly normal, I guess. But again, it's like the way that it's used is fairly unique. Okay, you know what? I'm going to throw it right in the middle, right in between beam and cutter. Let's go ahead and do that. So next up we have ball. Yeah, literally just ball, and the way that this works is it's actually not in very many Kirby games. I think it's literally just in Kirby's Adventure and Nightmare in Dreamland. But Kirby turns into a ball, and you can basically have him, like, bounce around the stage. It's not very good. It's really hard to control this ability. I almost never actually use it. I mean, the few times I've played the game, I really haven't had much desire to use the ball ability. But is it a weird one? Because, you know what is kind of weird about this? The fact that Kirby's already basically a ball. Like, the only thing that's different here is that he doesn't have arms or legs. Otherwise, it is literally just the same thing. That doesn't make any sense. I think, honestly, just for that factor alone, that the ability is basically exactly the same as Kirby looks is kind of funny. But the controls are totally different. Let's put it in It's a Power-Up. I think maybe that is way too high. But just the idea of the fact that this is basically just Kirby again. Like, why did they even make this ability? I'm putting it right there. And I guess that is another thing, too, because I am thinking back to, like, other games. And I can't think of a lot of games, either, where you get to turn into a spherical ball and just start bouncing around. Like, I'm sure there are a few of them, but I can't think of many. So I think probably leaving it right there is totally fine. And next we have a very similar one, which is Balloon. It's kind of the same thing, but it works a little bit differently. It's only in one game, which is Canvas Curse. And you can basically tap on this Kirby to inflate him or eventually pop him. And that's basically it. It kind of functions like the ball ability, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like these just kind of have to be grouped together. I think I'm going to go ahead and put Balloon slightly above ball, because why not? Because that's actually kind of funny, too, because Canvas Curse, Kirby is already Ball Kirby. He's gotten even more simplified. And then Balloon Kirby also almost looks identical to just the Ball Kirby from Canvas Curse. So you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and group those together like that. This one's kind of cool. This is the Laser Kirby, and what you can kind of do here is you shoot a laser out of your eyes, and I think in some of the games you can also charge it up, and the laser, well, obviously it'll like hurt enemies, but it'll also bounce off of walls, so you can shoot it at like a 45-degree wall, it'll bounce up, and it's a really fun one to use when you're like trying to access like secret areas or hit switches and whatnot. I remember using it a lot in like in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. And I think this is a pretty decent one. Now, in terms of the weirdness, well, there are definitely a good amount of games that have laser abilities. There's not too many that work in this way. Like, because usually, I feel like in most games, or just in general, if you use a laser, it's like a one-time use. It's going to go one direction, and then that's it. Like, it's not going to bounce around all over the place. So I think, honestly, that utilization makes this one a power-up. It makes it I think we're going to put it in the same category as, like, the ball and balloon, but let's go ahead and throw it right there. Because we're starting to get to the slightly weird ones, and, yeah, I think we're going to actually see our very first weird one next, because guess what we've got? We have Tornado. I think this is very, very weird. Can you think of any other video games where you get to just turn into a freaking tornado? Yeah, exactly. There's not very much. I'm thinking back, and there might be like a couple of them out there, but I can't think of too many where you literally transform into a freaking tornado. That's just bizarre. It doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know how he does it. He's just an Animorph, I guess. Remember Animorphs, the classic 90s book series? That's kind of what this is. Kirby turns into... Well, isn't that just every ability? He's just an Animorph? Anyway, I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, I think this is definitely the weirdest one. Yeah, because I cannot think of any other game where you can just turn into this. And not only that, but you can like fly around and kind of control which direction you're going. I mean, not exactly. Like, it is very bouncy and chaotic like an actual tornado. But you can like somewhat control it. And in the later games, you can even spread it out if you tap the button at the end and make it even more powerful. So yeah, I think probably leaving it at very weird is good. So next up, I'm also going to combine these together because they're extremely similar. And that is Spark and Plasma. Now, obviously, these two are technically different. They have different hats. As you can see, we got a blue hat for Spark, a green one for Plasma. But what are they doing? They're shooting electricity. They both create balls, and they can just, like, throw them forward. They've used them as shields. And in some of the later games with Spark, you can kind of create, like, a lightning bolt and just kind of, like, hold it. And basically, the lightning will, like, attack anything that's underneath you. That's kind of cool. But at the end of the day, I feel like electric attacks are used fairly frequently. And, like, it's just, like, not all that weird. Like, we see this fairly often. So even though I do really like this one, I think it probably belongs in the not that strange category. You know what is kind of strange, though? I actually didn't think that I would be putting this many of the abilities so low on the list. Like, I thought a lot of these would be super weird, but, like, when you actually, like, sit back for a second and think about what these are not the wildest ideas of all time. Like, I actually think we get crazier ideas from the Mario franchise, at least as of right now. That's just kind of the impression that I'm getting here. Okay, but let's go ahead and move on to Parasol. Now, the only game that I can think of where any video game character uses a parasol is with Peach. And maybe that's like what this Powerup is referencing. It's supposed to be a callback to Peach. But that's really about it. It is definitely a bit on the weirder side. Now, of course, it is just an umbrella. Like, it's kind of like the boomerang, right? Most of us own an umbrella. Most of us own a hammer or either of those things. But, like, it's not really all that strange, per se. Like, sure, an umbrella attack isn't common in video games, unless you're thinking of, like, Smash Bros., I suppose. But it's also not that crazy. Like, what are we doing? We're floating, and we can use the umbrella as an attack. That's about it. It's, like, again, it's really not all that crazy. So I think we're going to probably throw this in the normal category. You know what? Let's actually put this right here. Yeah, we're going to put it in between high jump and cutter. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty good. So next up, we have stone. You turn into a rock or a boulder, or actually you can turn into a multitude of different things. That is something that makes stone so fun. Like, while the ability itself isn't really all that helpful, outside of, there's like an uppercut in, I think, Return to Dreamland that you can use for stone. Beyond that, like, it's really not that helpful. You really do just turn into a rock, but the actual transformations can change every single game. And a lot of times, the rock transformation will be a callback to some other completely obscure Kirby thing, or like a Mario reference, or a Smash Bros. Reference, or just something Nintendo in general. So that's really fun. That's something you don't see. And frankly, I can't think of too many games that has rock abilities outside of, like, I guess the Rock Mushroom from Mario Galaxy 2. And I'm sure there are a couple other games, but yeah, I don't know. This one, the idea of just turning into a stone, the more I think about it, the weirder it kind of is. Like, there's really not too many games that has this. I think let's put it in the, it's a power-up, but I don't know exactly where. Let's actually put it at the very top, because lasers kind of feels like one of those things that you do occasionally see in, like, shooter games or something. But stone, you don't really see that too often. I think we're going to throw that right there. Next up, we have wheel. And I actually think this is going to be another one that's in the very weird category, because you literally just turn into a tire, and then you can fly across the ground and destroy everything in your sight. And there is a different version of it, too, in Superstar and Superstar Ultra, where you're riding like a wheel vehicle, which is always really fun. So not only is it a really useful power-up, but it's also extremely bizarre. I can't think of many games where you can just turn into a frickin' tire. There's not many out there. Like, again, there might be a couple exceptions, but I can't think of very many. So I think probably putting it in very weird is a good spot. So next up, we have UFO. And yeah, I mean, the name says it all. You literally turn into a UFO. And what's cool about this is that you have actually a pretty big variety of attacks. So you can shoot like the little beams, similar to like the beam ability. You can charge up laser shots, like a few different varieties of laser shots, and then you can just kind of like fly around. You don't have to worry about jumping at all. Like, you're not going to run out of jumps or anything along the lines of that. You literally just fly across the screen. It is one of the most overpowered abilities in Kirby history. But is it weird? And I'm actually going to go ahead and put this in the it's weird category. And here's my logic for this. So the idea of turning into a UFO, honestly, is not something that you really see in most games. But the idea of UFOs flying around in video games isn't the craziest concept. Like, I feel like human beings have been talking about aliens and UFOs for decades now. So seeing that in a video game isn't like the kookiest concept of all time. But with that said, you just don't see it that often as like an actual playable character. So I think probably just throwing it right there is pretty good. We'll go ahead and do that. So next up, we have sleep. You literally just go to sleep. This being an ability, what the hell? Why? I've never played a game where you purposefully go to sleep outside of like this one. And it's useless on top of that. Like, it's literally an anti-power-up. This one, I'm gonna put it in it's weird, because I know there are some games where like you do go to sleep to like charge up. But in this Kirby game in particular, like, you sleep and then it usually harms you. Like, a lot of times if you pick up the sleep ability in a game, it will result in you dying from like some enemy or some like obstacle coming in. And the whole point was to avoid it completely. Now, of course, the sleep ability is an actual like a proper ability in Kirby Battle Royale for the 3DS. You can like use your hat and your pillow or something to attack enemies. So I guess you could say It has some, like, versatility for that one game that no one played. But beyond that, you go to sleep. That is just weird. And then even, like, I'm remembering now in Kirby in the Forgotten Land, you could upgrade the sleep ability and you just pull out a whole bed. That's hilarious. Like, the only other game that I can think of where you can just bust out of bed whenever you feel like it is The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. And that's about it. All right, next up we have the needle. All right, this is another really, really strange one. You literally just turn into a porcupine, essentially. You just bust out some needles and basically hurt anything in its path. I mean, it works very similarly to, like, Spark, or I guess even, like, Freeze to an extent, I suppose, but it's more like Spark, because you can just hold needle for as long as you want. And, again, like most of these power-ups, it gets more useful as the game's moved on. I know, like, with the modern games, I think you can roll around with needle. I know with, like, Kirby in the Forgotten Land, you can upgrade this one, and it does actually get a lot better. But in terms of its weirdness, I mean, just turning into a ball of spikes, this one's honestly pretty strange, I'm not gonna lie. I think we'll probably throw it at, like, the very bottom of its weird, because I can't think of many other games that really do anything like this. All right, and next up, I have Cook. And what I've basically done is I've combined all of the screen wipes together. So screen wipes are nothing that crazy. We have been seeing screen wipe abilities since basically the beginning of video games. They are very, very common. And with Cook, well, Kirby takes all of his enemies, throws them into a pot. They're all destroyed, and then you get a bunch of abilities. It's an interesting spin on the idea, but is it weird? I mean, honestly, it is a little bit weird, but what actually happens is just kind of normal. I think I'm going to throw this in fairly normal just because it is a much more creative way to do a screen wipe, and that's really the only reason I'm going to put it there. Next up, we've got Paint. Again, this is kind of the same idea as Cook. It is one of the most underutilized power-ups ever. I think, again, it's only in one game. And you know what? I'm just going to put it in the normal category. I think I'll probably just make all of these normal. Yeah, so next we've got Crash. Again, it's another screen wipe. Is it more or less interesting than, like, Cook or Paint? There is Artist too, which we will get to later, but it's very different from Paint. But is it all that different than these, or is there anything more interesting about it? Honestly, I'd probably say this is one of the less interesting ones. There's just not really much to say about Crash. It has been in a lot of different games, and what is actually kind of cool about it is that with the upgraded version of Forgotten Land, you can slow down time temporarily if you have the fully upgraded one. But beyond that, like, yeah, again, it's just a screen wipe. So we'll move on to the next one. That is Mike. This is the same thing, except Kirby yells into a microphone and you can use it multiple times. So it's one of the more useful ones. It's probably technically the most useful screen wipe out of all of them, just because it has multiple uses. In terms of its weirdness, though, I mean, Kirby just screaming into a microphone, yeah, honestly, that is more on the unique side. I guess I'll put it here. I still think the cooking one is more creative than Mike, but not by much. And now we'll move on to Magic. So this one is actually a screen wipe in one game, but in another one, I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it was like Planet Robobot or something. They brought back Magic, and you can, like, no, it wasn't that. It was Squeak Squad. Anyway, they brought it back, and you can, like, summon doves from your hat, and you have all these, like, brand new attacks that you just, like, pull out of your hat. And you can still do, well, it's not necessarily a screen wipe, but, like, you can, like, cycle the random power-ups and use one of them. I think I would actually throw this in It's a Power-Up. Now, the idea of a magician is nothing new. We've all heard of magicians. We've all seen fun little magic tricks. So I don't think I could necessarily call it a weird power-up, but it definitely is one of the more diverse ones. And I think for that reason, let's put it at the very top of It's a Power-Up. Yeah, I think that actually works pretty darn well. And now we'll move on to Artist. So this is kind of, I guess, the sequel to the Paint ability, except now you can actually use your brush for attacks. And that's pretty neat. again, like, you don't really see stuff like this in most games. Like, there is, of course, a handful of games where you can, like, draw things and they come to life or whatever. But here, I don't know. Like, I think the way that artist is used is more on the interesting side. And I think we'll probably throw this, maybe, and I think probably, like, it's a power-up is fair. Let's put it above ball, balloon, laser. You know what? Let's throw it, like, right here. I mean, it's kind of hard to, like, judge what's more and less interesting in this specific category, but I think somewhere in the middle is pretty fair for artist. And now we have what is our last screen wipe. Or I don't know why I put art. I meant to put festival lower. But anyway, festival. You walk around, you do a little dance with some enemies. All the enemies are gone. It's fine. I mean, it's probably better than Crash, just because the dance is kind of cool. But beyond that, it's fairly normal. Again, it's just a screen wipe. There's not much else to really say about it. So next up we have Drill. And we have seen drill abilities in a couple other games. Again, I got to call back to Mario Galaxy 2 with the spin drill item that you can hold. This is actually a very similar idea to that, where Kirby can literally dig into the ground to attack enemies from underneath or collect, like, coins and hidden collectibles and things along the lines of that. So it is kind of cool. I would say it is in the it's a power-up category, because I do feel like we see drill abilities in more games than you would think. I think we'll probably put this... Oh, where are we going to put this? I think it's going to be in between artist and laser. Because, like, again, it is fairly unique, but it is also not, like, the wackiest concept of all time. So now we have Archer. Archer is a really, really solid one where basically you got a bow and arrow, and you can use a shield to, like, block things, or to basically block any attack. I don't think it makes you completely invincible, per se. I know some bosses, you will still get hurt even if you're holding up the shield. But just having that is really nice. In terms of how interesting it is, though, I mean, again, like, it's really not that crazy. Like, bow and arrow characters are very common in a lot of different games. I think this, unfortunately, has to go into boring slop. Now, it's not at the bottom of the barrel, of course, but I do think we're probably going to put it... I don't know. We'll put it, like, right here, between Ninja and Bomb. How does that sound? We'll see how that sounds. So next up we have Leaf. And I'm not going to lie, guys, this is going in very weird immediately. Because can you think of any other game where you can just, like, summon leaves from the ground or throw them for attacks? Like, of all the things that could be deadly to hurt opponents, leaves. Like, this is what we're doing? Leaves? Like, and don't get me wrong, I love this ability. I think it's awesome. This is one of my favorites to use in Return to Dreamland. But leaves! Like, this is... What? How do you... I don't even know how you think of something like that. It's hilarious. It's very silly. And I love it. I think, yeah, just leaves. I don't know what it is. There is something about that is just so random and just such an out there idea. It's... Now that I'm, like, looking more at this list, I think the modern games, for the most part, are where they start to get more creative. In the older games is where the abilities are less creative, which makes sense, right? Because if you're starting a franchise like Kirby, well, you're gonna come up with ideas that have kind of already existed in the past, and then you want, if you want to expand on that, you have to get more creative. So that is kind of cool that we're kind of seeing, like, the evolution of weirdness to boring slop. But anyway, let's move on to Water, because that's our next ability. Now, the way water is used in this game is freaking awesome. It is very creative, but again, it is just water. Now, water is an interesting one because, like, you do use it a lot in games and in a big variety of games. It's not always used for attacks, but sometimes it is. A lot of times, bursts of water can be pretty common. I think of like RPGs as an example, use water a lot in a lot of different scenarios. And it's also, like, you know, one of the most common elements in the world. So, like, I think this is probably a not that strange, but its use case is really cool because you'll, like, surf on water, and you got, like, a water hat that's, like, constantly flowing, and you can even use that as an attack. Like, the water ability, again, super fun to use. I just don't think it is that weird. That's the only thing. I'm going to go ahead and put it above like fire and ice because I think those are a bit more common. Maybe even like electric is more common than that. So we'll put water right at the top of the not that strange. But what is next? We've got Mecha. You turn into I guess like a mech, and you can like shoot lasers and stuff. So, I mean, this is cool. Again, I love the power-up. It's very, very fun to use. I mean, the vast majority of Kirby abilities are just satisfying in nature. But when it comes to the uniqueness, we have seen mech abilities, not just in video games, but I think in media all the time. Like the idea of like big robots that are big technological robots. That concept has just been a thing for forever. I mean, we're trying to build like AI robots to do our chores now. So like that's coming soon. This is not that weird whatsoever. I know this is really the same thing, but anyway, this is not very strange. I don't think it's necessarily boring slop, but it's also not that strange. I'm putting it at the very bottom. Actually, no, hammer. Let's go Mecha and then hammer. Yeah, there we go. So next up we have Smash Bros. And this is honestly a really weird one to think about because like it's just Smash Bros. Honestly, I might have to put do I put this in boring slop? I feel like that would be sacrilege. But what's Kirby doing here? He's getting his moveset from Super Smash Bros., whether it be Melee or the Smash 4 one, because technically I think the moves are different between the Dream Collection version or the Amazing Mirror version of Smash Bros. And I'm trying to remember if was Smash Bros. In any other games? It might have been in, what was it, like Planet Robobot or something? I think it wasn't Planet Robobot, now that I'm thinking about it. But regardless, what Kirby turns into, he basically just becomes a fighter. Like, yeah, he kind of just becomes a fighter. A more diverse fighter, I suppose you could say. So, you know what? We're going to put him... Oh, this feels so bad. I can't put it in boring slop. I'm going to put it in not that strange, though. I'm only going to put it above hammer because you can use the hammer with this Kirby, but that's it. I don't think I can put it any higher than that. This video feels so weird. But next we have backdrop. It's Kirby doing a backdrop on enemies. Okay, what's the point of this? Like, again, anyone could just do this in real life. I don't know why you need a specific ability for this, but okay. Then we have throw, which again, Kirby just like throws things really strong. I guess I'll put it, it's going in slop again, but I guess we could throw this above backdrop just because the throws themselves are really powerful, I suppose. And then we have suplex, and like again, it's kind of just in the same category. Like there's not much else to add. Like again, there's a billion fighting games. These are all just typical fighting moves in most games, so this is where I'm gonna put it. Feels kind of weird to have all three of those in boring slop, but like again, they're just not very creative abilities. They simply aren't. So this is a bit of a weird one. This is Jelly, which comes from Kirby's Dream Buffet of all things. And the idea here is that you can pass through like objects and enemies. It kind of just turns you invincible in a sense for like a few seconds. But yeah, this honestly kind of reminds me of like Ball or Balloon because this is kind of just Kirby again, but he changes forms only a tiny bit. And I think for that reason, we're just going to put him slightly above Balloon and Ball just because the form is kind of interesting. So, you know what? Yeah, we'll put that one and it's a power-up. Now, I've decided to group together the exclusive Kirby Air Ride and Air Rider's abilities. First up, we have Flash. Now, for Flash, what are we doing here? Well, you turn into a bolt of electricity temporarily, and you can do a little bit of a boost dash to kind of like get ahead of players. That's the idea for this one. It is only in Kirby Air Ride, and I think I'm actually going to probably put it near the Spark one and the Plasma, because like it's kind of the same idea as those. Although actually, I think I'll put it at the very top just because its usage is slightly more unique than the other versions, but not by much. Like it's really not that much more. Actually, I don't know. Let's put it in the middle. It feels weird to put that at the top. Let's just do that. And next up, we've got Steel Ball. Kirby just turns into a ball, and he's very strong. And yeah, I think it's technically the 69th Kirby ability. Wow, incredible. So there you go, steel ball. Where is this going? It is literally just a ball. I don't know. I mean, we've got Kirby ball, we've got balloon. But, like, this is different than, like, the Kirby ball. Because here, this is not, like, a Kirby-fied version. Like, no, this is literally just, like, a bowling ball, essentially. That's pretty much all this is. It's weird, though. Like, again, I can't think of many games where you just turn into a ball out of nowhere. That is definitely more on the bizarre side. So, you know what? I'll put it in the it's a power-up. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Where am I might just group it with these ones, honestly, because it is kind of similar to, like, jelly and balloon and whatnot. So next up, we have copy. And this one looks really cool. It looks like you get to shoot a cool laser. But no, all that you do is that you can use it to scan an enemy's ability and turn it into a helper. And this is more useful in, like, co-op for, like, Superstar. But for the most part, it is one of the most useless Kirby abilities out there. Is it weird, though, the idea of, like, scanning to copy ability? I'm actually going to argue this is really, really strange. You do not see this very frequently in most video games. Now, of course, like, there are ways to, like, kind of, like, control your enemies in some games. Like, the only one I can think of that has this similar idea is, I can't believe I'm making the comparison again, but Echoes of Wisdom from Zelda, where you get to basically, like use enemies. You can kind of, like, take the enemies and just, like, recreate them, essentially make clones of them. This is kind of like that, and it's kind of like the same essence of that. But that's really the only other game where I can think of where you can do something like this. Like, again, it's really not that useful, but it is a little bit weird. Like, why is this a thing? I'm putting it in, it's weird. I think it belongs here. Now, next up, we've got Mini. It's just Kirby small. We see this all the time in video games. I'm going to put this in the slop, honestly. I think I'll probably put it, like, I don't know, like right above the fighter ones. I can't put it much higher than that, though, I'll be honest. But now we've got Yo-Yo. And, yeah, you know what? The idea of using a yo-yo as an attack, definitely pretty strange. Like, there are a couple games. I know, like, the Penny's Rolling Rascal or whatever that game is. It came out a couple years ago. It's called Penny's Rolling something. I know that uses a yo-yo to, like, navigate around stages, and that is a really cool one. But that's like, it's like an indie game, and it's the only one that I can think of that uses something like a yo-yo in a video game. Because it's like a yo-yo. This is like a kid's toy. You use this when you're really bored at home. Or this is something you would do like in the 70s or 80s when you didn't have smartphones or TikTok to brain rot your brain. No, all we had back in the day was a freaking yo-yo. And when I say all we had, I didn't even exist in this time period. I had internet. What am I complaining about? Anyway, the yo-yo's going in the very weird. Why is this considered a threatening power-up? I think that's hilarious. This belongs in the very weird category. And speaking of weird, we have a beetle. I think this is another one that is also just really bizarre. Like, turning into a bug, you don't see this very frequently either. Like, there probably are a handful of games where you do turn into bugs, but the idea of turning into a beetle and, like, using the horn to, like, launch yourself forward and attack multiple enemies at once, and it has, like, a really fast swiping attack, too, I think is really neat. And just the idea behind it is, yeah, this one is strange. Let's put it in its weird category. You know what? We're going to put it, like, right here. Let's do that. But next up, we have ESP, and this basically gives Kirby telekinetic powers. So, it is definitely more interesting than a lot of these Kirby abilities, just in terms of how, like, unique it is. But you definitely see telekinesis and psychic in a good handful of games. Like, again, it's not the most common thing that you'll see, but it is out there. So I don't think I can really put it up all that high. It's probably going to be in the it's a power-up category. I think let's throw it, like, at the very bottom of it's a power-up. I think that works well. Oh, man, dude, look at my list. I'm going to have to start shrinking some of these Kirbys. They're filling up quick. Now we've got Ghost. Okay, this one is really strange. I'm not going to put it up very high. It's probably going to be in the normal or not that strange category. But the way that it's used is really weird. Like, you can kind of, like, control enemies and use them to your advantage. That's kind of the way that it works, and you can also, like, float around as a ghost. It's not really all that great, but I guess, like, in terms of, like, just like ghosts being in games, it is slightly different than the way most ghosts work in most games. So, you know what? I guess, you know what the hell? Let's put it in fairly normal. I don't think I'll put it at the very bottom. I think the screen wipes are less interesting than this one, but it's really not saying much. I think maybe even like Cutter. We'll put it in between like Parasol and Cutter. Let's do that. So now we've got Bell. Kirby runs around and he's smacking people with bells. That's hilarious. That is so silly. This is definitely in the weird category. And like, if you look at everything in the weird and very weird, like these are all like objects that Kirby's using, or like I guess like phases that he's in that you just would not ever expect in an action game. But no, let's just use freaking bells. Like, okay, sure, why not? I'm not gonna lie though, I don't know where to put light. This one is really strange to me because it's barely an ability to begin with. Like, literally all Kirby does here is turn on the lights. Is this just like the equivalent of like walking into my bedroom and turning on the light with a light switch? I'm just gonna say it is. That makes this by far the most boring power-up of all time. And it's also one of the worst power-ups of all time because it's used in only a couple rooms in Kirby's Adventure, and you don't even really need it for anything. But now let's move on to Ranger. So this is Kirby with gun. Very funny. We have seen a bajillion games with guns. Even Mario has a gun in Mario plus Rabbids. But yeah, I mean, it's Kirby with a gun, and of course you can upgrade it, and you can have like a space gun, which I guess is kind of interesting, but like, again, this really is just not that interesting at all. This probably belongs in Boring Slop, I'm not gonna lie. I think we'll throw it, this is gonna sound insane, but like, just the concept of guns in video games is so normalized. I think we just put it right near the bottom, like right here. And up next we have Wrestler. This is actually a fairly interesting one because like it's only in one game. It's only in Kirby Fighters 2, so it is an ability from a spin-off game. Very, very bizarre. But like at the end of the day, we see wrestlers on TV all the time. It is very cool that Kirby has like an official like wrestling hat. I think that is awesome. But it's also really not that uncommon whatsoever. This is something that we see in our everyday lives. So, yep, I am going to be putting you, sir, right above the fighter ones just because he has a little bit more style compared to just like the regular fighting Kirbys. But it is otherwise kind of just like the same concept. And next up we have Whip. So with Whip, you use a whip, you can attack in a few different ways, a few different angles, and that's about it. Now, I don't think the whip is the most common method for attacking in video games or just in general, but it's also not anything all that crazy. We put this in the not that strange. I think that's probably fine. Maybe we'll put it above Hammer, actually. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So next up, we have Bubble. You literally just use bubbles. Yeah, that's pretty strange. And not only that, but you can basically capture enemies and just take their abilities and use them for later. Because this power-up is only in Squeak Squad. You can hold up to 5 items or abilities in your stomach for later. You even combine them together if you really want. But yeah, you just get a little bubble wand. And like, bubbles aren't the craziest thing. Like, but in terms of like actual like power-ups, you don't typically see this in most video games. So I think just on that factor alone, just because this is like the least intimidating idea for an attack ever, we put this in the it's weird category. It's not the most out there idea, but definitely belongs in it's weird. But of course we have Spear. This is our next one. This is, you got a big steer. What am I trying to steer? Oh, you got a big spear that you're holding. You can throw it. It's got a sharp end to it to attack enemies. That's about it. Like, once again, you don't typically use this in video games all too often. But this is a very, very common weapon just in general in real life. So I really can't put it all that high because like we have seen this 1,000 times already. In terms of where, this honestly might be in boring slop. I'm not going to lie. I think we're probably going to put this near like the bomb category. Maybe, yeah, I think like the bomb category, that's going to work. And this next one is staff. Is this not just kind of like the same idea? Like obviously I know the abilities work a little bit differently. But I mean, come on. It's a long weapon, a long stick. This is just a different long stick. I'm putting it in the same spot. I'm sorry. That's just where it belongs. Now we've got poison. And once again, the idea for this one is pretty interesting because like you literally are just able to use poison and you can kind of just like splash it around to do all sorts of damage. But I think it's fairly similar to like your stereotypical fire or ice power-up where you can like use some sort of like toxic fume or like toxic ball or whatever to like attack. I mean, usually poison isn't like something to avoid, but being able to wield its power, I guess, is kind of interesting. But again, I just don't think it does anything all that crazy, and like we see poison in as an element in video games all the time. So you know what? We're gonna throw this at the very top. I think that's not at the very top. The very top of it, not that strange. And up next, we've got Spider, and this is definitely, I feel like finally we're getting back to an actually bizarre power-up, because here you can summon the ability to use spider webs. You can attach your partners. You can trap enemies here. And I can't think of many games where you get to use spiders outside of, I guess, like Spider-Man, right? Sure, I guess. It's not really the same idea, but sure, Spider-Man is probably the closest we're going to get. But that's about it. I mean, beyond that, yeah, I don't know. I would say we probably put this in the it's a power-up category. Probably, I would say, like, near the top, because its utilization is very unique compared to most games, but we also have seen spider power-ups in a good handful of games as well. Ooh, now for my favorite power-up of all time, and that, of course, is Mirror. This one absolutely slaps. I'm a huge, huge fan of this power-up. Now, what are we doing here? Well, you can you basically use a wand. You can summon these like little mirror particles to attack. You can create multiple like versions of yourself as a clone, and I believe you can also like reflect projectiles back at you. So this is one of the most versatile Kirby abilities out there. It can just do so much, especially in like Planet Robobot, where it adds even more attacks to it. I think this one is pretty darn cool. Now, is it a weird ability? I would probably argue that, yeah, this is definitely a fairly weird one. The idea of like using a wand to attack isn't all that crazy, but I do think the actual abilities themselves are definitely fairly interesting. So it's probably somewhere around, I mean, honestly, it's kind of like a, just as weird as like the bubble power-up. So you know what? I'm actually going to throw that like right there. And next we have Cupid. This is kind of like the first version of Archer, where you can fly around shooting arrows and whatnot. And Cupid is just another one of those characters that is a pretty like fairly standardized like character of our society. Most people know what Cupid is. Classic Valentine's Day, yada, yada, yada. So Cupid itself, while it is a pretty decent power-up, it's not my favorite of all time. It's not bad, but in terms of how interesting it is, it's really not that crazy. I would probably put it, I would say it's a little less common than like the Archer, but it's really not, it's not winning much here. I'm probably going to put it near like Mecha, because it kind of has like the same like cultural like relevance as like a Mecha. Like everyone knows what mech suits are, but yeah, it's kind of just like in the same category, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. But now we've got Animal. This one is really silly. I mean, Kirby's dressing up in a fursuit, and he can like dig through dirt and whatnot. It is pretty interesting. And honestly, like the ability itself, this is another one that you don't see too often in games. There are definitely other ones where you can like dig through dirt and whatnot, but it's not as often. Like I think at least off the top of my mind, I've been playing a lot of Sonic recently. Like, Sonic Colors has the Drill Wispin, where you can use that and, like, dig through dirt. And this is kind of the same idea, except a lot slower. But even still, that's not something you see very often, so I think probably throwing it in It's a Power-Up, probably, like, next to, like, the Drill one, except maybe a little bit higher. Just because you got the suit on, so, like, why not? Okay. Doctor. Yeah, this one's going in the very weird category. Absolutely. I'm probably going to put it, like, maybe some on... this might be... I don't know if it's the top one yet, but this is definitely one of the strangest Kirby abilities of all time. I mean, you literally turn into a doctor, and you can create potions and use them as explosion attacks. You have these huge glasses on that Kirby can barely even see out of. You have a clipboard as an attack, and of course you can throw pills like Dr. Mario, but like, this is just the strangest thing ever. Like, the idea of this, I don't know who thought of this, but I absolutely love it. The Doctor one is just fire. Great power-up and incredibly bizarre on top of that. And next up we have Jet, which, again, I think this one is fairly self-explanatory. You can fly around in a jet, and in Planet Robobot, you do also get a couple of attacks with it. I think you get attacks in the original game too, but yeah, this is another one where it's kind of just like, we've seen this idea before in games where you can fly around, but you don't see it in like every game ever. So I think, honestly, probably putting it like near the Cupid or the Mecha one probably makes the most sense for this. So I think we'll go ahead and do that. Now we've got Circus. I think this one is going to be going in the very weird category. You play as a clown, which is honestly not very common, but it's not even just that. It's just you have all of these super weird and wonky attacks on top of that, and like, even there's just the entire premise of this is so strange, and it's like the last thing that you would expect from a Kirby game, which is why I absolutely love it. So I think putting it right here makes a ton of sense. So, next up, we have the Missile, and this is not a very common one. I think this is only an Amazing Mirror, but yeah, you literally just turn into a missile. You can fly around, hit things, and it's honestly not the most useful power-up ever, but in terms of how strange it is, honestly, it kind of reminds me of, like, the Steel Ball, where it's like, okay, here we have a ability, you have, like, a thing like a missile, which is a very common weapon in video games, but directly turning into it and controlling it, that doesn't happen very often. So I think probably throwing it in It's a Power-Up, maybe like right above Steel Ball, I think that probably works pretty well. Well, we're actually getting pretty close to the end, believe it or not. There's only a few more left. Here we've got Sand. Yes, literally just using sand. It just looks like Kirby's playing in the sand and is just smacking you with little particles. Obviously, this is going in very weird. Like, what the hell is this? This is such a random idea. Like, this... I've never really seen... Like, I mean, sand, like you see in video games all the time, is just, like, a thing to walk on. But using it as an attack, that is not common at all. I've never heard of a game outside of this one where you just throw sand at people and attack them that way. That's hilarious. I love that. I think we're going to put that maybe, like... I don't know, like, right there. Maybe, I think Circus needs to be higher, actually. I'm going to move Circus... Yeah, we're going to do this. Yo-Yo, Sand, Leaf, Wheel, Circus, Doctor, and Tornado still at the top. Now we have Cleaning. You turn into a cleaner. Yeah, this power-up kind of sucks. It does get better in Star Allies, considering that with the animal helpers, you can they're kind of like mixed into the moveset itself. And of course, you can use the animal helpers in Dreamland 3. But, like, you're just, like, sweeping. That's the, again, like... There's nothing threatening happening here. Like, when you think about cleaning, you're not thinking about, oh yeah, I'm going to use this to, like, attack an enemy. Like, no, not at all. This is definitely a very, very strange one. I'm actually going to put it slightly above Yo-Yo. And for our last two, we've got Wing. So you're kind of just, like, flying around. You can also throw feathers as an attack, too. This one's not too bad. But is it interesting? It's kind of like on the same category as High Jump. It is similar to High Jump, but now you can, like, throw feathers. So, you know what? Let's actually put that, like, we'll put that, like, right above it, I suppose. And for the last one, we have got the best one ever, guys. It's freaking Metal. Haha, yeah, metal's awesome, where you get to slowly walk around. And yes, you are invincible, but you can barely jump. And it's just turning metal. I actually don't really know where I'm going to put this, because, like, I'm trying to think, like, I don't know where I put Metal Mario in the Mario Power-Ups video. I don't remember. But I don't remember Metal Mario being that high up, so I'm probably going to throw this in either not that strange or fairly normal. I think I'll put this at the very top of not that strange. I think that'll probably work. Just because, like, the idea of using... Well, I mean, like, being encased in metal isn't super common, I guess, but, like, I don't know. I just feel like it's not that exciting of an idea, so we're just going to put it right there. And there you have it, guys. That is every single Kirby power-up, well, all the general ones at least. From the weirdest to boring slop, this video was honestly painful to make, because basically all these power-ups I enjoy using for the most part, so to have this many of them not actually be that crazy or that unique is kind of surprising, but let me know what you think down below. I'm going to go now. Goodbye.